the American Gracchus Podcast. This is a free edition of the American Gracchus Podcast where I am going to be finalizing the argument that the left is nothing more than a bunch of evil Nazi colonizers. It's going to be a bit more in depth than that, but I'm just going to bring this up. So we have the pride. So we have the pride flag, or as I like to call it, the conservative pride flag. Not because it's actually conservative, but because that's basically what it's become. And this conservative pride flag, it has no separate but equal racial pride stripes. It has no pro-genital mutilation activism. There's no pedophilia kind of connotations with it. I'm sure people will disagree with me in that in a moment. But then we have the others. We have, again, the traditional rainbow flag. I'm going to call it the Soviet rainbow flag because it has the has some kind of sprocket thing there. We have the genital mutilation flag with the transgender. We have the gender queer. By the way, queer is, I'm old enough to remember queer being a slur, and it's designed to insinuate that gay people are pedophiles. So if people call themselves queer, then that's kind of on them. And we have pansexual, which isn't a thing. And pansexual is basically you're sexually attracted to everything, which would include the vacuum of space, a cactus, things of that nature. Intersex, a thing that does exist, but it's a genital and chromosomal and hormonal deformity. So weird thing to celebrate, but okay. Gender fluid, another thing that doesn't exist. And by the way, when I say that you don't exist, I'm not denying I'm not denying the reality of your existence. That's, by the way, a stupid phrase, but but I'm just saying you don't exist, and the fact that I keep having to talk to you people over and over and over again. I wish I could deny you your existence. If only I can just Thanos snap the gender fluid people, but I cannot. Asexual people, non-binary, bisexual. Non-binary is basically admitting that you are not human, because human beings are a sexually dimorphic species. So, and there's a lot of people on the margins, as Kimberly Crenshaw would put it, who would say that if you're going to say that you're not human, there's a lot of interesting people who would have something to say about that, and it keeps going. There's master and slave, which is a reference to. I'm just gonna let that hang there. That's gross. There's also the straight flag. I don't want or need a pride flag. I don't do celebrate being born, but it looks very mysteriously like the Ingsoc symbol, which feels weird. And then we have the separate but equal racial pride stripes. Now, the separate but equal racial pride stripes is weird. I don't like this. I don't need this. No one needs this. This doesn't need to be a thing. So you have the rainbow colors, and it's basically just a bunch of astrology nonsense. Like the red means love, the orange means like courage or whatever. And it's a bunch of nonsense. It's also a Christian symbol, and this Christian symbol is being I'm going to say attacked, as it were, by these separate but equal racial pride stripes, which, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to refer to as critical race theory praxis. And then you have the trans flag with the pink and blue. Funny story: if you take the pink and blue and you reverse it, you have the pedo pride flag, which yeah. And oh well, and the white. Forgot about that, because the pride flag changed colors again. And so what you have here is a situation where genital mutilation and racism is sort of the byproducts of the Enlightenment is imperialistically marching its way onto this colonized Christian symbol. And if that wasn't enough, there's more groups that have been added to the ranks of these colonization. It's the now there's intersex. So what you have is people who have people. So now you have birth defects, genital mutilation, and racism marching in on the rainbow, and the genital mutilation, the genital deformities, and the racism is now at the point where it's almost completely overtaken the rainbow. Okay, and when I see this, okay, this flag looks like the Axis powers marching into Poland. Okay, this doesn't simply for aesthetic's sake. Okay, this looks gross. Please stop doing this. This looks gross. It's also racism, and racism bad. Anyway, then I already brought that up. But here's the thing: from a left-wing perspective, flags and banners are symbols of nationalism. So when you see the flag and the banner with the separate but equal racial stripes, what you have is race nationalism by your own definitions of things. Please stop. This is gross. This is disgusting. But joining me to talk about this gross, disgusting thing, sorry about that, everyone, is some Christian content creators I met on Instagram whose cameras are frozen. There we go. Now they're back. Yeah.
All right.
Stop. Stop sharing. There we go.
Cool deal.
So that was a bit.
I did not know,
but it was true.
I did not know there were that many flags.
Yeah, there's more than those.
Like,
there's more than those out there.
See,
it's not surprising, but I didn't know that quite so many were out there. That's weird.
There's more.
This is the thing. I only need my Vatican City flag right here because I'm Catholic, and my American flag right there. You guys can't see it, but it's there, and it's all there and proud. Properly proud, not the other proud.
Yeah. No separate but equal racial pride stripes for you.
Yeah. Now I do want to say something. I do want to say something real quick. I thought it was so funny. We're like, I wish I could Thanos snap the gender fluid people or something like that. I think what you meant to say is Thanos snap the gender fluid out of the gay people. Snap the gay out of the people.
No. The whole thing is you're denying me my existence. So I'm basically saying, if only I can just deny you your existence and have some peace. If only. Yeah.
Well, love the sinner. Love the sinner. Make sure don't forget to love the sinner. I will say that.
Yeah, no. It's just a play on words.
Yeah. I got you. Okay, but that's really rough. I mean, it's kind of a shame that the people in the pride or all the sexualities community have like taken or quote unquote colonized the rainbow. Because, I would kind of argue that the pride community never colonized the rainbow. It's just that they shout louder than Christians, honestly. Because I think, the huge reason why, and this kind of ties into why we're losing right now. Or at least, we've been getting some white pills recently, which I'm happy about. But why we've lost so much ground is because we just haven't had balls to, come back or guts. I don't want to make it perverted, but, we haven't had the guts to go out there and actually, be bold about it. We've kind of been sold this feminized Christianity that it's just like, you just have to be accepting and nice. It's like, well, you accept and love a person, but you don't accept and love the sin. That's the whole point of
Machiavelli has just entered the chat.
Who?
Machiavelli. He basically said Christianity makes people weak because Christianity is too feminine.
I think that's more of like the mainstream
1500 AD
Christianity. Because a lot of people, this is also me actually. Because when I first looked at Jesus, and like a lot of how I was taught, in the draw books and whatever, he just didn't really like see much of like the masculine figure until I started doing more research into myself, started reading the Bible myself, saw all the stuff that he went through, saw a good friend of mine, Anderson White. he made a video about this, like about how, you know, we shouldn't be nice people or nice guys, so to say. You know, we can be kind, that's manly, but being simply nice because you want to avoid saying something that could offend somebody, not for the sake of offending, but for the sake of, you know, saying something righteous and standing for righteousness. You know, that's manly. You know, it's not manly to just kind of, you know, be quiet and all that. That's not actually, that's not even what as Christians we're called to do. What we're called to do is rebuke and, you know, stand firm in the faith like men. We're not supposed to just be like, well, okay, I guess that's your opinion. You know, we're not, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. So that's kind of, that's a shame that, you know, people like can see sometimes depict Christianity as very feminine and stuff like that. Because really that's just the media brainwashing on it, really. But so I urged you, person in the comment section, to go pick up your Bible or watch Anderson's video. You know, I'll post that again on my story because it's such a good video. It's such a good video. But yeah.
Yeah. So I think you guys should introduce yourselves. We should let's start with Beezy because you're all the way at the end. It makes it the easiest.
The beesiest. We're the easiest because we're the beesiest. Hey, I'm Beezy Tollinger. I am a alt-right echo chamber comic creator. You may have heard, or you probably have not heard of my the comic series Splat Rabbit that I have started, starring my transforming rabbit pal that can transform into anything he sets his mind into and dunks on the libs every now and then. So that's pretty much what I do.
It's such a great animation. It's drawn like early 2000s cartoons before they switched to Flash animation. You know, do you still do the number 6s in the ears, or do you just do the spirals now?
I think it's still the number 6s right now.
Okay, yeah, I love that. It's a nice touch. The thing is, he's a really great artist, but he just does his own thing. So like it keeps improving, but it stays in the same aesthetic, which proves that these Fortune 500 company cartoon channels didn't have to switch to the inferior form of animation.
Well, it's more cost effective. You know, you had to keep costs down, so you can drive up the
inferior.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not about having good things anymore. You know, did y'all see? This is kind of off topic, but did y'all see where the Mustang is coming back to its old classic style, but it's still just an EV? So it's like you get to have beauty, you get to do this, but only if you go ahead and do the current thing.
Yeah. So, Franco, why don't you introduce yourself, mate?
Hey, I'm Franco Aurelio. I'm a Christian musician. That's pretty much my main thing. I largely do a lot of Christian. Well, I mean, that's literally like all my music nowadays is pretty much Christian music. Yeah, I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, etc. You know, just the mainstream apps. I don't think I'm on every single app, you know, just because I use a distributor. I don't know if they cover all of it, but they cover the most important ones, in my opinion. But yeah, I mainly focus on music. I was actually talking to Trevor about this earlier. How you know, I like to delve in a good amount into politics. I used to be a lot more into it than I am now because I just with my faith increasing, I really I kind of don't see any other way to get people on the right track besides, you know, getting them to Christ first. Because really, you know, it's in my experience, what I've seen is that trying to persuade people on politics is going to be a lot harder compared to like if they just, you know, if they come to Christ and like you show them like your love and stuff like that, like they will practically all the dominoes will fall into politics if they're, you know, as long as they're devoted. Because I know some people might be like, well, you know, there's Christians that vote blue, like what about them? And it's like, yeah, those are probably the ones that are not really paying much attention to politics. You could just talk to them like real quick and be like, yo, this person supports abortion, and they'll be like, oh shoot, what am I doing voted for this person or whatever? You know, this person supports gay sex, you know, that's a sin. You know, again, love the sinner, hate the sin. So really, that's why I think that as soon as you get somebody that is as soon as you persuade someone into the faith, they will become you know, they will fall in the line, because you don't really have to be like, okay, well, here's why abortion is wrong because of, you know, etc. It's killing human life and women, and like, you know, at these points and whatever, you know, you don't have to go into all that intricate details. You can just tell a Christian that votes blue, be like, Jeremiah 1:5, God formed you in the womb. Boom, and it's like it's it's like mind change there. It's that easy because they follow God. They don't just they don't follow they don't follow much of their personal intuition as they would. So that's really my goal essentially as a Christian musician, to bring more people to the faith. Not like I've seen this problem in a lot of Christian music, that it's a lot of corny stuff. You guys know what I'm
Yeah.
yeah, it's so easy, you know what I'm talking about.
No, if I could just take a second to brag on my friend here, no, everyone needs to check out Franco's tracks because he's really out here doing God's work. Amazing stuff. Truly, it's not pandering. It's scripturally sound. Check that out immediately.
There's a lot of Christian music channels that what they basically are is they sort of, and I'm not a Christian, and even I find this particularly annoying, is when they sort of take the aesthetics of Christianity and they just sort of map it onto something else. A perfect example of this, not to rag on Skillet, I like Skillet. They have some pretty good guitar work or whatever, but if you took the Christianity out of Skillet, you would have the exact same product. You would have the exact same music. If you swapped out Christianity for any other religion or even no religion at all, these songs would be exactly the same. Franco's music, if you took the Christianity out of the music, you would, pardon the Catholic pun here, but you would take the Holy Spirit out of the music, so
it would just be instrumental.
No, I wouldn't have any spirit. It wouldn't have any spirit. There'd be no music. There'd be no spirit.
Is literally the case.
But
I mean, I have had the when some of my lyrics, for example, I don't know if you know this, Trevor, but I think Beezy probably already knows this. I recently deleted a bunch of my old songs because they were sinful. And when I'm remastering them to re-release them again, but with like with correct lyrics, I've been actually having it checked by a priest because I want to make sure that this stuff is on point. I don't want to screw up again.
I'm telling you, this man's the truth. For real.
Yeah. It is on point. It is on point. So yeah, we're
the point of this the point of this show, this series, the rest of this sort of building up to it throughout the entire month of Pride, or as the Christians who are engaging in decolonizing Pride, Covenant Month, is I've sort of noticed that there is this proclivity among left-wing activists, who I call on the Trevor Report. I typically tend to call them aristocrats because that's exactly what they are. So anyway, now that you know the term, I've noticed a proclivity among aristocrats to sort of just march along their way and just sort of take everything that people like. They have no understanding of the parochial. They have no understanding that that human beings aren't purely of reason. And that's sort of what our society's call against prejudice is. Because why wouldn't you have prejudice against a rapist? A rapist is someone who violently forces themselves on someone else purely for their own benefit and deprives someone of their rights while doing it. Why wouldn't you have prejudice towards a murderer? Okay, a murderer does the same thing, but that murderer deprives you of your, as laid out in the Declaration of Independence, which you could also appeal to scripture. Well, actually, as a non-Christian trying to, I'm going to actually appeal to scripture. Okay, all humans are made in the image of God. So when you murder someone, what you are doing is you are violating God's law. You are violating divine law when you do that. That's from a Christian perspective. If you want to go the classical liberal route, you can say, hey, you know what? That's a violation of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. A murder victim can't do that. Anyway, so that's why I hate rapists and murderers. And if people have a problem with that, then too bad, I guess. I don't know. But along with Covenant Month, now, as someone who's not a Christian, I'm going to ask the question. that I believe Covenant Month is it stems from when Moses parted the Red Sea, and because light refraction from water and the sun, there was a rainbow that was made, and the rainbow has been a Christian symbol for thousands of years, and up until the last say 15 years, it's been colonized in order to reflect a purely materialist politics. Am I correct in this assessment?
Yeah, I think. Well, repeat that again.
Well, actually, you referred to Moses and the story of them crossing the Red Sea, which is a very much an important story. What we're referring to is actually Noah and how God saw the evil within the earth, everything that was going on, including homosexuality and the deviancy that comes with that. And he decided that he was going to take on, just take out the world, wipe out humanity, and start the slate over. He found favor in Noah, and so he took on him and his family and saved them in the ark. And after everything had happened, after he saw that Noah had, done exactly as he had said, down to the measurements of the boat, taking all the different animals on, and then landing on the Ararat mountain, and doing as he had said, he cast his bow into the sky and told them that this is a covenant between me and you, that I will never flood the earth again. And so that's when the rainbow, initially comes from. That's the initial symbol of God's love in the earth, that he will never take out humanity that way again. And also, in a way, not expressly aligned, but I guess we can kind of infer from it that because of Noah's faith in God, because Noah was blameless in his generation, that we're going to be okay. And if we walk with God, if we keep our faith strong in God, then God will be with us. So that bow is cast into the sky to remind us that God is with us, God will save us, and God will not, cause any harm to befall us. And then you enter Pride Month and you see what they've done to the rainbow. And
Yeah, I think everything BD said was right on. I look, zoned out. I didn't even know you mentioned Moses. That's why I was like, what did he say? So that's my bad. But yeah, BZ was right on.
Yeah. So another thing too, I believe the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. I believe this is why Christians call it sodomy and refer to people who engage in sodomy as Sodom. Like I'm an outsider looking in, right? Yeah. Why they call them sodomites is because I believe in the story of the ark. Well, the one before he flooded the world in Sodom and Gomorrah, where he turned these cities into candles and lit them.
That's a fine way to put it.
Yeah, that's yeah. I'm gonna put this on YouTube. So I'm really trying my best here. Not so that it's monetized, but just to kind of make it so that my betters can't really are having trouble identifying with it. But it's that with Sodom and Gomorrah, I believe in that story, two angels come down to help some family or whatever. That very similar.
Lot's family, yeah.
Yeah, Lot's family, and everyone in town just wanted to Gluteus Maximus.
They wanted to beat angel cheeks.
They wanted to Gluteus Maximus rights violate the angels.
Wait, I didn't read the whole story on that. Wait, what?
Yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah. I'll let BZ explain it because I'm not good at remembering.
Yeah, I haven't read the whole story. I know Lot's part of why Sodom and Gomorrah was getting rained on fire.
If you want the BZ paraphrase, yes, Lot invited angels of the Lord into his home, and the men of Sodom and Gomorrah came out to him.
Raped.
And they wanted to be angel chiefs.
Matter of fact, the whole town came to rape angels.
Exactly. There's one. It's a little. Here we go. They got right here. Okay. I'm going to quote it directly. It is in Genesis in chapter 19. And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold, now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go to your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned unto him and entered into his house. So the angels enter into his house. That's when they're there. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people, old, young, everybody living in the sinful city. And they said unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came into thy house? Bring them out to us, that we may know them. And if you know anything about how the Old Testament refers to the dirty, knowing somebody it's the nice way of putting it. So that we may know them. And Lot went out to the door unto them, and shut the door after him. And this is the crazy part. And said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known men. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto them, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of the roof. And they said, Stand back. And they again. So this man Lot is about to offer these men his 2 daughters, and it's like, hey, you young and old men of the city, you dirty dogs, here I have 2 untouched women, they're yours. And they say, get out of the way, we want the men. So it's a very vivid window of just how far gone the city of Sodom was.
That must have been so hard. Like,
it's not a
your
child-friendly chapter.
The freaking bro, I can't imagine. Oh man, this is why the Old Testament really was pretty gritty.
The Old Testament
when people
wild.
say that, like,
so funny.
A lot of people think that the Bible, like, just anybody could just pick up the Bible and whatever. Like, no. Especially not, this stuff is like,
it's more wild than Stephen King.
Like really, really extreme. You can't just first off, you need like the proper guidance to pick it up, preferably the Catholic teaching on it, because I'm Catholic, it's just what I believe.
I think,
and if not that, at least from a pastor that's studied it for years, right? I mean, you could go with I'm not gonna say. Anyways, you could go with Catholic teaching, which has been around for 2,000 years or nearly 2,000 years. But anyways, my whole point is, don't, like, a lot of people get the misconception that it's an easy book to read. It's not. It's a very, very, very difficult book. I mean, like, BZ, you just stated a very good point. To know somebody, that's something of like kind of like a phrase in Jewish terminology or in the Bible that the Bible uses.
In Espanol, you would say familiar.
You can't like take that literally. You have to kind of use inference points, and like there's stuff in the Bible that's more tricky than that. So yeah, like, no, definitely very, very you gotta be careful when reading that. It is a divine book. It's a divine book, but you gotta be. We're not divine. We're not infallible.
The point I'm trying to make is that there is. No, you finish, because my stuff's good. Me saying something is moving on. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's all good. All I was gonna say was seek the Holy Spirit when you read it. Always seek God for guidance on all things. He will reveal to you. And even we're blessed to live in these times. I mean, they're rough times, but at the same time, we do have access to more translations and more text than anyone who came before us ever did. So you can find the original Hebrew Old Testament and translate directly from that. You can find the Greek New Testament and be able to translate directly from that if you want more context and people who know about what was going on at the time. I found a great, good friend of mine. His name is Nui Sands. Your Friendly Hood recently revealed some things about the rod of correction that is talked about in Proverbs, but that's a whole nother topic. Just make sure that you seek God and do your due diligence when you read.
Yeah, I want to quickly rebuke myself saying that we're not all divine. Some of us are divine, because I technically would say once you become a child of God, you are divine. Because that's something that I learned recently when I was doing Bible study with same Bible study that me and BZ are in, actually. One of us pointed out that not everybody is a child of God. Like, you are, if you don't like accept Jesus Christ, and like if you don't decide to take that plunge, you are by definition a child of Satan. Because of like the whole being birthed of. Do you remember what exactly Aiden said? or
I wasn't at the last
Peter
one, but
Wazowski,
I
you know,
mean,
who we don't know his name, just for anonymous reasons.
yeah, I don't think I was at the last one where he may or may not have said that, but yeah, that's them is just kind of the brakes on life, because people think that serving Satan is this actual thing, like you actually submit yourself to the devil. And I'm not going to say that that kind of thing doesn't exist. There are definitely examples of such, but
Yeah.
even to deeply worship the self and to go into deep self-indulgence, that's the essence of Satanism.
Yeah.
So a lot of people get that twisted, and they think that, oh, no, I'm just doing me. I'm just self-loving. I'm just self-loving. Humans love themselves enough without actually actively doing it. So
Yeah, that's
it's
pretty much
a trap.
that's pretty much Satanism. Just like exactly as you said, you know, a lot of people have another misconception that, okay, Satanism means to worship Satan. It's not. It's actually to worship yourself, which is exactly what Satan wants. Because, you know, from when you follow yourself, you're gonna get a perfect thing. You're gonna get an imperfect thing, because, you know, we're imperfect. So who would have thought that when you follow an imperfect being such as yourself, you end up sad, depressed, on pills, and, you know, miserable. So,
We're going off on a
Anyone who
tangent here,
ever
but I feel like
has
I
a
gotta.
mild experience with coding understands that perfection is not a thing. There will always be a problem. There will be problems that arise later for no reason, that don't need to have that there are no reason to happen, but they happen anyway. So the point, I guess, with bringing up scripture, which isn't really central to my argument of why the left is a bunch of evil colonizers, which shock of all shocks, but it's not central to it. But the point I'm trying to make when I brought up scripture to a bunch of Christians is that there two Christians is that there is a particular continuity when it comes to Christianity. Christians have a particular ethic that is distinguishable and has terms to express that ethic that is distinguishable from other ethical systems and other sorts of value systems, other moral systems as well. And when you put, say, I don't know, separate but equal racial pride stripes on this Christian symbol, that is completely antithetical to, honestly, a particular people that exist in a particular place in a particular time. When you map genital mutilation onto this Christian symbol, what you're essentially doing is, you're not only, it'd be like if you took a symbology of a Native American tribe and then made that symbology into your own, made that thing that you made into your own completely antithetical to everything that was part of the original symbol, while doing your best to maintain the original aesthetics of that symbol. And anyone of that particular tribe who has a problem with that, and then you just call them a list of names, then I honestly don't really see how, from a leftist perspective, and I'm not even left wing, okay, but I don't understand how, and I'm going to address leftists specifically, how are you not colonists?
they're appropriating our culture, man. They're appropriating our culture.
Yeah, like you've stolen something that isn't yours and have used it in a way that mocks the people you stole from in the greatest possible way. What gives you the right to do that? And it's something that, you know, you should probably think about.
They're empowered by their father, the devil. The devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So he wants to be like the Most High, but he can't do what the Most High has done. Lucifer can't cast a bow in the sky and can't make these grand promises to his people. So instead, he takes what God has set in motion and corrupts it. So he takes this beautiful image of God's sovereignty, of God's grace, and he makes it into a symbol of pride and arrogance and sodomy and disgust. And then on top of it, continues his trail of mocking by adding these stripes, because, you know, God created everybody. And, you know, Paul talks about this, that in Jesus Christ, there is no Jew, nor Greek, nor slave, nor free, no man, no woman. We are just the body of Christ. That is scripture. And you making all these proclivities for these different, genders and stuff. First of all, taking God's creation that he established in Genesis and saying that you could just flip-flop those. You can be born in the wrong body. God can make mistakes. And then you give favor and preference to a certain kind of people, a certain shade of person, all while perverting your symbol. Nothing but the damn devil.
Yeah, God doesn't make mistakes. A lot of people will want to say that gay people were born that way, but really, in my opinion, and honestly, like, this is based on just like a bunch of different people that are experiencing this, that I would say have talked on this, is that, like, John Doyle would like to say, well, there is never, like, so much research has been poured in, there's no gay gene, right? He makes that really
John Doyle is very, very edgy. It's not my particular politics.
Really?
It's funny though.
If John Doyle is edgy, if
John
John Doyle is edgy
Doyle's
for
edgy?
you, you've got a lot.
No, I'm not saying that
bro.
when I say edgy, I don't mean beyond the pale.
Okay.
There's like BZ, you're edgy.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
When you released that TikTok on your Instagram where you called where you used the word sodomite in a particular way, like I would call that edgy.
The flag used the symbol of sodomy by the Satanists. That's what I used.
Yeah.
That's
what I would call edgy. Like, I wouldn't say Eminem is edgy.
I'm not gonna lie. I was a little hesitant to say that, because I was like, maybe I'm like reviling. I could be saying that in a more loving way. But it's like it's all factual. There's literally no cap in there. I mean, the symbol of sodomy, it's literally what that is, and it's by Satanists, people that choose to follow their own desires rather than God's. That is literally what Satan wants, as we addressed earlier. So really, I'm not lying. It's like literally what it is. So that was a part of me where I was like, there's a part of me that thinks it might be a little too harsh, but then there's another part of me that's like, you're being feminine right now. Like, stop being stop being so weak.
Yeah, I think I'm going a bit too far when I call them colonists, but then I'm like, well, I mean, it's kind of true.
Yeah.
So
I think that may be the remnants. We're all guys that have grown up in these times. We're all people that have, at some point or another, maybe have been more prone to fall for the kind of cowardice that we see in a lot of mainstream conservative circles. It's only just now that people have been powerfully fighting back. I think that little bit of hesitancy that we've been having in our content and in our speech and stuff may be the remnants of that kind of trying to bite us back. But at this point in history, we got to go full stop and just go all the way in. We got to accelerate, and we got to proclaim the glory of God.
I never thought
bring back common decency.
As an atheist, and I don't mean, and I'm going to say this because I'm going to broadcast this to a bunch of Americans. As an American, I don't mean against religion. I mean non-theist, right? But as I told BZ, I'm an atheist for God. So I'm not an agnostic. I'm not undecided.
Yeah.
We're gonna get you there, Trevor. Trevor, you be paying attention to our causes, and you sympathize with them, and you agree with them. I think that upon a little more research and a little more like looking into it, I feel like you might find your way there.
It's just one of those things where I can't be convinced that Jesus is the Son of God.
Yeah,
I also
think
the new atheists were too convincing, and I watched them at too early of an age. So rather than sort of do what a lot of atheists, like, I don't do religion that much as part of my stuff, but as a part of my anti-pedo action, I'm trying to find common ground with securing the rights, freedom, and dignity of innocent children from being debauched and assaulted and raped.
I see you. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, so it's basically what this is, but what I'm also not going to do is I'm not going to make the mistake of trying, like, I'll say I'm an atheist, but I think everyone else should go the route of Christ. Does that make me a hypocrite? Yes.
yeah.
That makes me a complete and total hypocrite.
I will say this,
But I just
Trevor.
can't
as-
like, I've just been too convinced the other way, but I'm not going to lead other people to barbarism.
As I
You know,
was,
I'm permitted to be a barbarian, but I'm not going to lead other people to
do you
barbarism.
think that there is a God though? Like, do you think there is a God?
I have no idea.
You have no right, but like, because this
I
is
would say
something
I
that a lot of
definitely
Christians like to
read.
point
I
out.
would
It's
say
like
I
there
definitely
is
read
people
the
that
Bible
think
than
that like
most American Christians do.
so there's a lot of people that think like there is a God, and then there's like no, there's definitely not a God, right? And
Yeah.
both of them, I would say that both of them are a huge leap of faith. Sure, like the latter, people might like to tout as like, oh, it's more scientific. It's like, no, it's not
To
actually.
say there
It's
isn't a
more of a leap
God,
of
I
faith
would say
because
is
it hasn't been disproven either.
yeah.
And
I
because
would say you're basically completely rejecting anything outside of the third dimension.
yeah,
Basically, so like there's no fifth. So there's space and time, which is where we exist, but there can't be something that's outside of space and time. And that's probably some kind of logical fallacy of some kind. I also don't care, but but it's just kind of, I don't know how else to describe it other than I would say that I heard this somewhere, I can't remember where, but like, basically to say that there is no God is basically just a philosophical vice that 20 somethings tend to engage in because it makes people the most mad.
it's another leap of
Philosophical
faith.
diddling.
It's another leap of faith.
Yeah, so it's, I don't know. It's no matter how many times I read. I even tried your advice, BZ. I tried praying the other day. Nothing happened.
Well, it's not going to happen
Nothing
instantly. It's going to happen according to
Well,
God's timing, you know.
That's true. Yeah.
But
So I just have
hey,
to.
and that's something that
Sorry, go
even
ahead.
Christians struggle with. It's something that I struggle with heavily, you know, especially during I call them my centrist college cuck years. I just assume that God should hear my call and be beholden to it. And that was my deadly mistake. And I wasn't gaining any ground as a person of faith because I just thought that God hears my prayer. I'm a pretty good Christian boy. You know, I do the bare minimum, but I do rep God. So I should be able to get the blessing, you know. I just want to get rich. But, like, you know.
Because I've been in situations where people around me were praying for a thing and I'd end up praying with them or whatever. But I always felt so selfish when I would pray. I don't know why. Like, I'd always be overcome with a sense of selfishness. Like, there's an Ethiopian child who eats cardboard from a dumpster or something. I'm probably being insensitive to Ethiopians. I don't care though.
Well, pray for the Ethiopian. I mean, you pray. You
no,
can pray for everybody and everything.
Yeah, but it's sort of like when I was praying for that, I'm just kind of like, oh, come on, I can help myself out. I don't need God to help me or whatever. Like, why would God help me? I'd prefer if he took the time to, over there. And so like, and that happens every time I pray. It's like, oh God, I'm such a piece of shit.
I actually really relate to that before. Now I don't have that issue anymore, but before I did relate to that like to some extent, because I would, like, when I prayed, I would like also be like, these people probably also need prayer, so I should probably pray for them too, right? So I would like mention it all in that one go, so I wouldn't like feel so bad about like asking for like things, because then like nowadays I don't really do that because I've already prayed for that. But you can always pray for it again if you want. But now it's more of like, I want to be grateful for the stuff, like just so I don't, one, because I am grateful, and second, so I don't feel that guilty, right? Because I'll be honest with myself. Yeah, sometimes I do feel guilty just praying and asking. So yeah, sometimes I want to, kind of balance that out with being genuinely grateful to. And some people might be like, well, that's not really genuine if you're doing it because you want to balance it out. I was like, well, you don't know my heart, okay? And I think I'm pretty grateful nowadays. And nowadays, honestly, it just kind of comes naturally now. But yeah. Anyways, I do think that like you do say that like you think that I don't really need to pray for that. I can just do it myself, which is I really do think that is a very good point to go off of, because we there are things that we can do ourselves, but there's always gonna be things that are not in our control. And when those things happen is when we really need God to be there, because if we're not there and we didn't take his hand, then we're more vulnerable to the hands of the devil. That's usually my go-to response to anybody that tells me, well, if God exists, why do bad things happen? It's like, well, because not everybody takes God's hand.
I always thought that was a stupid argument that
Really?
when atheists brought that up. I would always remember, like, I probably said this out loud a few times too. I remember there was this YouTube channel called Dark Matter 2525, and it's like in one of those atheist animation channels. And so, but the thing is, it's a pretty good channel, and it does I would say a decent job at like from an aesthetic point of view, laying out why atheists believe the things that they do, the same way that the Bible has stories to lay out why they believe the things that they do. But I just remember, I think it's called why does if God is all good and all powerful, then why would he permit evil? And then they sort of go through the graphs or whatever, and I'm just like, because hardship is part of the human experience.
I would actually say it's because of free will. He gave us free will.
Yeah.
Like he loves us that much that he doesn't want us to be robots that just automatically love him. He wants us to, be free to do what we choose to do, but he also wants us to love him. So, when we choose him, the things work out in our favor, and sometimes we're going to get hardships, obviously, because that's just life, right? And we're not perfect, and Satan will play a role in that. But the more we hang on to him, the more stronger we're going to get for, difficulties and I would even say maybe there's going to be even less things that you have to suffer through, that people and I mean, ultimately it will be, because, you will be going to heaven essentially if you do like all the stuff that God wants of you, baptism, Eucharist, God's will, faith, right? All those 4 things, very important. So really, like that's the thing about, why it's so crucial to take God's hand, because if you don't take it, you're just going to be more vulnerable to the hands of the devil, and he doesn't want the best for you. He wants your soul.
Tying this back into our main topic here, we talked earlier about how Satan wants to steal, kill, and destroy, and so he subverts so that he can be like the Most High.
Sounds like a socialist.
Yeah. Satan himself didn't corrupt mankind. All Satan did was spin a little lie and told Eve that she wouldn't die if she ate the fruit, and that God just wants to limit you, that God's word won't come true, and that God doesn't want you to be all that you can be. And so then the woman disobeys because she's been beguiled, and then the woman takes the fruit over to her man's, and the man, instead of stepping into his biblical authority as the man, the head of his family, he takes the woman's advice, and then God comes to the picture and is like, oh, well, that's where all the sin comes from. So,
eat this fruit, baby.
yeah. Honey, it's time for us to do the opposite of God's will. Yes, honey.
Yeah.
That Adam and Eve, oh my gosh, that story is like, there's so much to learn from there. People want to, like, a lot of people, especially like specifically atheists, I would say, like want to focus and like saying like, oh, it wasn't real, or it was real, like then some Christians are like, just Not the
Also,
not the,
let's
not the
talk
most
about
smart Christians
let's
would
talk
say,
about
like, it is
man.
real or whatever.
Let's talk about
The focus
pre-social
is on the
man in the
moral.
state of nature. Also, Adam and Eve isn't real. Like, you're talking about the same thing. Shut up.
The focus really is on the morals. It's like about what it teaches. It's like what does it teach? Women are more likely to be deceived. What does it teach? Men should not be submitting to a woman's like sort of intuition, because the
Yeah.
man is going to be less likely to do that. What does it teach? Men should be manly. Women should submit to their husbands, right? And that doesn't mean that women should just shut up or whatever. Like, I know some incels will like to say that, but that just means that you are the leader. You will have the final say. If you can. A part of being a good leader is listening to what the people on your team have to say. If you're not listening to your wife to what she says and like taking that into account for your like for a decision, you're retarded. Like, it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're not being smart in the slightest or manly in the slightest. So just
It was subversion. No, you got it. It was subversion that caused sin to be in this world. It is subversion that causes things like the modern pride movement to continue to gain ground. It's only by realizing that we've gotten this far because of constant subversion of the proper order and beginning to go backwards. I know this is going to be a bad term to a lot of modern people, both in and outside of all of our audiences, but to go backwards is almost to find new life and to find new progression. I'd say more righteous progression, because
You're getting
current
at something that I'll let you finish, but that is basically what I'm getting at. So
yeah, so our current trajectory, if it's going to be better, we're gonna have to. I say this a lot. We're basically gonna have to burn what has been established and go back, and then go back from that point instead of continuing off for our current trajectory. Because right now it's not looking too good. It ain't looking so nice.
Hey, well, for a white pill, we can evangelize the world if we really try hard enough. I believe that. And I know some people might say like, well, some Christians might say like, well, isn't it like the majority will go down the wide path, right? Or like, won't the majority fall into sin? And keep in mind this: if all the people in the world right now got evangelized, that still would be the minority compared to like all of history, because
everyone who's ever been born is still eclipses.
So I think it's very like God didn't
yeah.
specifically say like, no, like this is a certain limit of how many people can be evangelized for the narrow path. We don't know how big the narrow path is, and how way more bigger the wider path is. So and by the way, Trevor, if you don't know, the I believe the Bible verse is like the majority will go down the wide path, at least to destruction, and only a few will go down the narrow path. So we don't know.
Only few will go down the narrow path. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what you talked about, BZ, I'll get into that in a second, but I just want to briefly mention, there's a Doctor Who episode, the key strategic of the human race and all sentient species is that the dead outnumber the living. And so if you can weaponize and harvest the dead, then you have an army that will always win. You will always win. So that's Doctor Who can be cosmically terrifying sometimes. But yeah. But what you were talking about, BZ, is I believe for the people who are subscribed to the premium subscription, I talked about this in part 2, and maybe not part 2. It was either part 2 or part 3. Well, in either case, I talked about the slippery slope fallacy and how it's actually not a fallacy, and how left wing activism is just the slippery slope, but as politics, and that's actually where it has value, even though in the vast majority of cases it's just nonsense, but whatever. And so that's either the second one or the third one, and this is either the second one or the third one. I've done too many of these to like know which things I've covered in each one, but in either the second or the third one, I talked about how Whig historiography is dumb. And as a brief explanation of Whig historiography is basically, throughout all of human history, the one thing that all of human history and all civilizations have in common is that things will progress towards getting better and better over time. It's like, no, the Roman Empire was a tad bit more advanced than the Vikings.
I don't know my history.
Don't get me wrong. The aristocrats in the Roman Empire had their slaves assist them in certain acts because they didn't actually love their partners and things like that. But they weren't raping and pillaging entire countries for the fun of it. And the Vikings, shockingly enough, perpetuators of awake historiography, were after the Romans. After the Roman Empire fell twice, and so, but that's not the reason why I went into why Whig historiography was bad, right? And it's sort of the same problem that the neo-reactionaries have, which is sort of what you sort of brought up, BZ, where you got to go back. But that's basically the same thing. It assumes that there is either a point to where everything is at its peak, or things always get better. These are basically, no offense to you, BZ. I fell into this trap for years until I looked into it a bit more. It's basically the same thing. It assumes that progress is the be all end all, and if you reverse progress, then you'll make society better. Or if you allow progress for the sake of progress to go on, then society will get better. But it seems to be that a more accurate view of this, that people who are more conservatively or religiously inclined can do, is they can go, history is when human empires rise and fall. There is a continuum. When societies reach their peak, they do good, they do their best, and there is a period and there are periods in societies where they do the opposite of that. And whether or not it is a good thing or a bad thing is up to just the people viewing it. Like, we could do the same thing with the Roman Empire and the Vikings. We can take a look at how the British Empire handled their things, and how the American Empire handled their things. And as much as I am an American, I will have to say the British Empire handled their imperialism a bit more human than how the Americans are handling their imperialism, which is very, very corporate. It's like, do our trade deals, and if you don't do our trade deals, we'll bomb you. Or we'll bomb a country that we just happen to be at war with for no reason, that's near you, and we'll just so happen to kill a bunch of kids. That's a whole other thing to get into, and we are hitting our hour-long time limit. So I'm going to have to end this there. Anything you guys would like to plug? Anything neat? Anything you're working on?
Go check out BZ's drawings. They're freaking awesome.
BZ Tolinger over on Instagram.
You can link there's a description.
Yeah. There will be links in the description. That's standard practice. But
awesome. Yeah, check out my music too.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out Franco's music. Check out all of it. Stream it. Run them up. Great music. Great value.
So true. Repost all of BZ's comics, all that stuff, all of the base, which is pretty much all of them essentially.
I'm thinking about doing a Splat Rabbit Noir as well, so stay tuned for that. I'm also writing a novel. I got a few projects in the works here.
Let's go. We want to see the work.
I'm locked into a bit of wage cuttery right now, so we'll see how I deal with it. But we're the Content Kitchen is still hot. It just hasn't been published yet.
That's great. That's great. And for me, I actually have a new song coming out this upcoming Sunday. Haven't yet announced it, but
it'll be out. I'll have it in the description by the time the video comes out.
So we got a song coming up this Sunday. Yeah, very good song. Christ-like. Hopefully it isn't corny. I don't think it's I don't think it's corny at all. But I don't know about you guys.
Your
So
music is permitted to be corny. But anyway, I'm going to
Yeah.
have to end it right there. My name is Trevor Brown. I am the editor-in-chief of Acropolis News Network, the world's first fully independent media organization powered by Liberty platforms, peer-to-peer advertising, and cryptocurrency. And if you liked what you saw, this is a more philosophical and ideological podcast compared to my normal Trevor Report, which I also do for the acropolisnews.com. And the rest of them are behind a premium paywall because, well, our site doesn't run ads, so we have premium stuff instead. So do check out Mount Olympus and get yourself a premium subscription, or go to theacropolisnews.com/products. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.